Welcome to Amy's Table. My guest today is Jessica Morris, whose work sits at the intersection of physical health, mental well-being, and workplace culture. In this conversation, we're exploring how our understanding of health has evolved and why so many people still feel overwhelmed trying to do it right. We'll talk about how stress shows up in our body, the small signs we shouldn't ignore, and the simple, doable habits that can make a real difference, starting today. And if you've ever felt like you knew what to do, but it's the struggle to stay consistent, there's insight here for you. This is Amy's Table. Pull up a seat. If you're anything like me, you try to be physically fit, you try and watch your health, your sleep, your nutrition, all of it. There's so much information coming at us all the time. What is a person to do? Do what I do and talk to Jessica Morris, because I think she knows just a little bit about everything. Jessica, I love talking to you. You have inspired me in so many ways, and I'm so glad you're here today. I want to know, first things first, how did you become involved in the health and fitness field?
Well, thank you for having me. I am so excited to talk about all things well-being. I first got started really from a very young age. I was always into sports, was a collegiate athlete, taught exercise classes, and then as I was a college athlete, discovered athletic training, had an injury, discovered what that was, and that began my pursuit of athletic training in school, became a board-certified athletic trainer, and then evolved from that with all the fitness realms and work with athletes on what can I also do to reach more of the general population. So created a private practice of personal training and health coaching, which I still have today, and then entered the corporate well-being space in around 2015. And that's where I was really looking at well-being from the point of an employee. How can I find ways to support the entire employee?
I mean, after all, healthy employees, healthy business, right?
Absolutely.
And of course, health has expanded so beyond, fitness and mental health now and all of those great things. But you've clearly been in the business a while. You've seen things change. I mean, a bad example, but eggs are good for you. Eggs aren't good for you. You need 10,000 steps. No, you really don't. What are some changes you've seen through the years that have been kind of eye-opening?
I think the most important one is the big shift to mental health. That is a conversation that now everyone is having, where 10 years ago, people did not talk about mental health in the workplace or just in general among friends and in communities. And now it has become, I think, almost a movement where mental health is in the forefront. And I think it's a great thing. Employers need to really take notice and realize that employees want their mental health supported. In fact, 1 in 5 adults has a mental health condition. That's a lot of your workforce. And so with that, there's that shift to how do we support the mental well-being of our employees and of people in general. And then some other shifts that I've seen is active aging. As we are aging, people are wanting to be more active, more fit, pickleball, and so our employees are living longer and they're retiring later and later in life.
It's funny when you talk about a company, I always look at things, we've talked about this before, fractals. I love fractals, how everything is sort of the same as you break it down. We need to look at our families the same way, our friends the same way. How is their mental health? We all have these aspirations of continuing to live and thrive longer and stronger. And so that's it, being so aware. And mental health to me seems a little bit like chicken and the egg, right? Can you really be fit if you're not mentally healthy? Can you really be mentally healthy if you're not feeling fit? We talked about the fact that I had a bug for a while. I won't say anything dramatic like I was depressed, but darn it, it was starting to wear on me. My normal disposition, just by being not well for a couple of weeks, was taking a beating. So what factors come in with mental health? It could be not feeling well, it could be concerns, worries. Talk about some of the things that it could be easy for an employer to address too.
Oh gosh, that's a lot to unpack.
I know.
That's so much to unpack. So, when you look at mental health, it has a direct correlation to our overall well-being, especially a component to physical well-being. And what I've seen as a shift is that, years ago, people looked at exercise as simply, I'm getting fit, I'm getting stronger. There's been a now shift that exercise is much more of a stress reliever. It's more mindfulness. It's mindfulness with movement and not so much a focus on, I need to lift weights or I need to lose weight, although that's a goal for many people. But they're also doing it as, how can I really help soothe my mental well-being with being in nature, taking a walk, and not the goal of getting 10,000 steps, but I need to take a break from the stresses of life. And exercise is my outlet for my mental well-being. It boosts the mood. It helps you sleep better. It improves your cognitive performance. And it also, it's been proven that it reduces anxiety and depression.
I think that going back to my not feeling well for a couple of weeks, that's why not exercising made it worse. Like the whole thing. That's what I mean about this whole chicken and the egg. And, I think that when I gave up the idea that I was working out to fit into a smaller size jean or to put a bikini on, but instead because I have this goal to be fit and strong and walk until the day I die. That changed everything. And so they are so tied together. If somebody is today listening and they're like, no, I'm so out of shape. Oh, my habits need an overhaul. Oh, where do I begin? Where do they begin?
Well, I tell all of my clients or anyone who asks for my opinion on how to start is that always start small. When I have got clients, whether it's health coaching or personal training, I want them to start very, very small. Let's pick one thing that you're going to add, eliminate, or improve. And let's only focus on that one small thing. And it may not even be a part of the larger goal they have. It might just be something very small. They want to reduce soft drinks. That's all we're going to focus on. Something like that. You're going to go from 3 Cokes to 1 Coke a day. And so when you can start small, you then begin to build on that accomplishment. And then that increases your motivation. I tell my clients, we can always add more. We can always make it larger goals, more difficult, challenging goals. But let's do something that in the beginning, you get some wins right off the bat. And I think that's what people do, especially New Year's resolutions. They want to change everything and lose 20 pounds and eat better, and they're going to change everything in their life. And it just doesn't work. So start very small and continue to build. And one way to help ensure some success is finding an accountability partner. Whether that's a best friend, a coworker, somebody in your family that you can be accountable to that's either going to do it with you or that you can kind of report back on, here's what I'm doing so far. But making sure you also always adhere to the SMART goals.
I love that.
Which are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. For example, most people say, I want to lose weight. That's so general. So if you lost a half a pound, you succeeded. Right? So you want to say something like, I want to lose 10 pounds in 6 months. That achieves all the SMART goals. You can measure it. It's a long enough time that it's attainable, and it's time-bound, and it's going to be realistic as well.
It's the small, I think, is so key because, as you say, so many of us are like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to never eat cheese again, and I'll never have another drink. It's just not real or fun, right?
Right. Yeah.
I love the quote that a nail drives out another nail. When you talked about the fact that if you want to drop from 3 sodas a day to 1, you could, in fact, have that 1 soda, but replace the other 2 with water.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I like this idea. You got to be real. You can't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
But you got to start, right? Because dreaming doesn't do anything for any of it.
And what I tell my clients is that if their goal, which often their goal is weight loss or getting better in shape, I always come back to starting with the sleep. That's where I always circle back to. And it's something that's not talked about a lot. I'm trying to bring it much more present, in those that I work with, on the importance of sleep. Because if you are not sleeping well, you really make it difficult to lose weight. It really inhibits that weight loss. And that's where I start with them. And it's kind of a light bulb moment of let's just backtrack and put the weight loss on the back burner for now. And let's look at some other things that are going to impact even your ability to lose weight.
It's like the foundation that's going to make everything easier. Well, I love the info you share on sleep. And so let's have a few tips on good sleep hygiene. And then you have your Sleepy Girl cocktail I want to hear about too.
Yes. So sleep hygiene, that is a term that is a little on the trend right now. It's really just a sleep routine. What does it look like? And there are so many things that can be done. But if someone is really overwhelmed and they're having a lot of sleep disturbances, then they want to start with consistent sleep, trying to go to bed the same time every night and wake up the same time every day as much as possible. And really ditching those screens, getting that TV turned off and putting away those devices 30 to 60 minutes before bed. And then there's that unwinding routine. What does it look like about an hour before you go to bed that you are letting your body relax and get in that sleepy state? Journaling, doing a puzzle, spending time with your partner, but just putting those devices away and finding something like a Sleepy Girl cocktail that will do that.
So tell us the Sleepy Girl cocktail.
So that's where you're going to be mixing magnesium powder with 100% tart cherry juice and a little splash of club soda.
So unsweetened tart cherry. And you know what?
Yes.
After you told me about this, I ran right out and got some. So it's easy to find generally in the natural foods section of the grocery store. Unsweetened magnesium powder. Can we open up a caplet and sprinkle it in?
You can. And there's also brands like Calm that you can get at all the different stores, and you can just get a little scoop of that into your tart cherry juice, which has magnesium components. You can also, if that's not really available to you, you can also look at a chamomile tea, a sleepy time tea, and that can do something similar. There's also herbal teas out there that have valerian root in them, which is a component that will help you sleep as well.
So that's good, because what you do want to do is something natural for sleep. When I think back to the days, I remember after an international trip, I got Ambien. Lord, first of all, it did knock me out, but I remember a doctor saying to me, get off of that right away. And I did with no problem, but it's like, we don't want those kind of things. And the sleeping pills have kind of gone away anyway, haven't they? Do people really use them as much anymore?
I think some still do, but it really is better to go with the natural route.
Well, I believe one of the times you and I were chatting about sleep, I think you said something about stretching or whatever, gentle stretching.
Yeah.
So I have, over the past couple of weeks, been doing my power plate, my vibration plate first.
Yes.
And then I've been doing like a 15-minute stretch. Now, I'm lucky to be a pretty good sleeper. I sometimes wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not quite sure why, and that drives me nuts. What's your suggestion for somebody waking up in the middle of the night?
Yeah. Well, what is a lot of people don't realize is that if they suffer from chronic diseases, they have a much higher risk of sleep disturbances. In fact, if you have diabetes, 86% of those with diabetes have sleep disruptions, which a lot of people don't think about. And so when you're looking at that sleep routine and that hygiene, you can do those light stretches before bed and really relax the body. I totally forgot your question.
Well, I've got to tell you, I don't think I'm diabetic. So why would I wake up at 3 a.m.?
Oh, yes. So when we have those disruptions in the middle of the night, a lot of it for us women that are in that premenopause, perimenopause, postmenopause will have that disruption at night. So if you're able to settle back down and roll back over, that's great. If you have to actually get up and go to the bathroom, hopefully you can get right back in and settle. However, the thing you want to think about, though, is that if you have woken in the night and your mind is racing, there's a couple of things you can do. If you have a notebook or something nearby the bed, to just jot down what's on your mind and kind of get that brained up. It doesn't have to be legible. It just has to be getting it off on paper. And then a lot of times that can be enough. However, if it's after 20 minutes and you can't, the best thing to do is to get up out of bed and go to another room where it is quiet and dark so that you can begin that sleep routine again. Maybe you need to do a bit of a puzzle or journal or some light stretching or even some little bit of meditation just to get that body back into that sleep mode and then go back into the bed when you are more sleepy.
Interesting. So don't turn the bed into a spot for struggle, if you will.
Yeah, it's that tossing and turning, and then your body will correlate that bed to disruption.
So when you wake up in the morning, one of the things that I used to do is basically, except for a sip of water, my first beverage would be coffee. I am now learning how critical it is to load up with some water first. Talk about the importance of starting out hydrated.
Well, you think about being asleep for 8 or so hours and your body is completely dehydrated. And that's even more so if you eliminated liquids a couple hours before bed so that it doesn't disrupt you in the night.
Right.
So you might be going 10, maybe 12 hours without any kind of hydration. And our bodies need that water for everything to function well. So starting the morning off with a big glass of water, is a great way to get that body rehydrated and get the brain started and moving and just processing everything.
And you know how incredibly important my coffee is to me. And the latest stories I'm hearing are 2.5 cups a day are really good for you. Please don't tell me that's no longer true.
No, you can still do caffeine, obviously in small doses. But now what I love is they are doing all of these coffee alternatives. So there's mushroom coffee, there's a fig coffee. So there's alternatives out there that taste just like coffee, but doesn't have the components of the caffeine. If you're looking to eliminate the caffeine,
I'm not.
You're not, and that's fine. And that's fine. We all have our vices. But yes, I think keeping that caffeine to a couple of cups a day is very realistic and totally fine.
But part of breaking that sleep problem is also not drinking it too late in the day.
Yeah, for some they have to stop at noon.
Yeah.
It really depends on how sensitive are you to caffeine. For some, they can take caffeine up until 5 or 6 p.m. and not have an issue. But if you are having sleep disruptions, that's one good place to look is at what point in the day are you stopping that caffeine intake? And that includes soft drinks as well,
Right.
or tea.
Right.
So those still have caffeine elements in them. So if that is an issue, then maybe you need to back up that caffeine a little bit earlier in the day and kind of cut yourself off sooner.
So we've talked about getting to bed on time. We've done, sleeping well and regularly. We've talked about getting up and having some liquids, a little bit of coffee. I want to touch on 2 things before we wrap today. One is exercise, how much, and protein, and eating proper food. It's a lot to pack into the last few minutes here, but exercise. I want to do it right. I love doing it. I don't want to find out I've been spinning my wheels. I mean, I understand I was doing more cardio than I needed, and I should have been doing more weights. And so what do we need really, truly? How many days a week? How many minutes are the minimum?
The gold standard is 150 minutes of moderate intensity. And so that means if you're looking at exercise on a scale of 1 to 10, when you're exercising in the midst of an exercise routine, you would rate it about a 6 or a 7. If you are doing something like a yoga, gentle stretching, which is great for mobility and balance, you would probably rate that maybe a 1 or a 2. And that's fine. That has its place in your workout, in your exercise routine. However, if you want to get the most impact for your health and well-being, then you want to have that 150 minutes, which is about 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Now, what I also want to tell your listeners is that you don't have to do 30 minutes all at once. Sometimes that can be overwhelming. You just don't have the time. So you can certainly break it up into 3 10-minute segments. So I tell people, do 10 minutes in the morning before you go to work, or if your job allows, do it first thing when you get to the office, or have an early morning walking meeting. Then you've got something around the lunchtime or at the end of the day, and then you can stick another 10 minutes in later in the evening after dinner. And that's an easy way to do manageable chunks of kind of micro movements instead of that 30 minutes all at once.
So let's say that routine feels good to people, 3 10-minute chunks. Can you do it 7 days a week?
You certainly could. Now, weight training, you cannot do that 2 days in a row. You need 48 hours of rest in between your weightlifting sessions. However, if you did upper body on a Monday, you could do lower body on a Tuesday, upper body on a Wednesday, as long as you have to break it up. But you wouldn't do, if weights are involved, you wouldn't do a Monday and a Tuesday back to back for the same muscle groups. But if you're doing something like body weight, push-ups, squats, crunches, or things with bands, you can do those
every day. I'm getting a new interest in bands. Those are kind of fun. Yeah, I think it's because I actually prefer straps to bands, because the bands are a little limiting to me. Okay, so this is definitive. I understand the amount and intensity of exercise. Now let's talk about one of the funniest things you said that has stuck with me is you should eat something with a face at every meal.
Yes.
Yes. But so the protein thing, that's gone back and forth. It's like they put protein in everything. Good God's sake.
Everything.
How much protein do we need?
So that varies on the individual and depends on their level. But yes, I always say anything with the mother has protein in it. If people are wondering, like, I don't know what has protein. If it has a mother, it has protein. Of course, there are those that are geared towards vegetarians and vegans. So you would want those complete proteins like a quinoa,
right,
or a tofu, chickpeas. Those are some other alternatives. Beans and rice, that makes a complete protein.
Doesn't bean and corn make a perfect protein too, or a complete?
Beans and rice is the natural complement.
Okay.
You have to look up with the beans and the corn.
Okay.
But I know beans and rice is a complete protein together. And so when you're looking at protein, like I said, it varies for everyone. One rule of thumb is that if you weigh 150 pounds, you're going to take it on the low side about 55 grams of protein, and on the high side about 100. Now, that is, again, looking at how active are you. If you're very, very active, getting in that 150 minutes, doing some really solid weight training, you're going to bump that up a little bit to that 80 to 100. But basically, it's going to be, in general, half to 3/4 of a gram of protein per pound of body weight.
Okay.
Is kind of the general rule of thumb. And that equates to about 25 to 30 grams at every meal. And that's what I got my clients on, is look to get that 20 to 30 grams in every meal that you have.
So quick math, what's 1/4 pound of meat?
So every serving of meat, fish, chicken, turkey, is going to be about 20 grams.
Okay.
Any protein powders that you use, the standard is they're 20 grams. So if you're putting that first thing in the morning in your smoothie, or you're having an afternoon smoothie, you've got 20 grams right there. If you were having a grilled chicken breast on a salad or on a bed of quinoa, you've got a lot right there.
Right.
Adding some chickpeas to various things, having some tempeh, brown rice, all of those things are going to have that protein. And of course, all the nut butters are going to have that as well. So it's pretty easy to get it in if you're very intentional and conscious about it.
So sort of this whole chicken and the egg thing, right? If you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you're exercising, your mental health is going to improve. If your mental health is improved, you can sleep well, you can eat well. So it's like, let's try and take a little bite from all of these elements of the whole person, right? And take small bites, as you say, and make them manageable. SMART goals. I can't repeat what that means, but specific, measurable,
attainable, realistic, and time out.
Smart. We're smart.
Yeah.
Jessica, you break it down so beautifully, and you're doing so many great things. Where can people find more information about you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. It's Jessica Morris KY. They can also find me on my Facebook page, Fit Life with Jessica, and also my company page, which is Right Solutions. That's RYTT, which means retain your top talent, but rightsolutions.com.
Amazing. So bring Jessica to your workplace, to your private life. Just bring her into your life because you need it. We all need it. And thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for joining us too. And remember, there's always a seat for you at Amy's table.